This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I help you make marketing and sales easy and not sleazy, pushy, or salesy. And today I'm tackling a question. It's the perfect time of year to tackle because this can be, let's hope it's not, the time of year when things are a little bit more quiet, but also a time when you're digging deep into planning the last 6 months of your year. Now, let me say a word about that. What I'd love for you to already have in place is exactly the programs that already are going to happen in July and August and September and October and November and December. And I lump them together in months of 3, just like that, because typically you're going to do either 6, maybe 4, 6, 8-week programs, and maybe 12-week programs. So in looking at that 24 weeks, you also have to factor in what happens at the end of October and the very beginning of November is people shut down. They stop registering and they start getting into party mode and buffet mode. And if you don't already have them locked into something that's going to help them stay accountable through the holiday season, you're going to probably experience a drop off. So knowing that, what I've always done was planned my end of the year when it needed to end so that people were done before the Christmas holidays and the New Year holidays. And typically there's a break there that may be an opportunity for a really short program or something special with kids or with families. But you want to look at your evergreen programs, the one that you feel, are profitable, people love, and you can fill them and get them backed out. So if you have to end on, say, December 20th, so people can, pack their bags, take off, or welcome relatives to their home, depending on what you're doing, then you back that out and look at, okay, where am I? So let's say your programs are 8 weeks long, and that is just an average. So I'm throwing that out there because it's so often true. That puts you in a really safe spot, because what that means is 2 months out, you're at the end of October, you're still in safe space. If you get them in, the end of October, you can keep them active. If you wait until that first or second week of November, it's really dangerous, because then they're going to say, I've got a week here, and then I've got Christmas recitals, and I've got this, and you may not capture them again until January, and that's a tough spot because everybody's advertising for them in January. So think about that in your last 6 months, putting that into play. Here's what we're talking about today is filling those programs, right? And this can be a tricky time of year, July to August, depending on where you are in the world, truly. When school starts, people tend to get back into routine. So sometimes it's post-Labor Day in the States that people really get back into the routine. But sometimes if kids are starting school earlier and earlier, have you noticed that? That by the time teachers go back a week ahead of time, that's really the start of, now I'm back in routine. And they're thinking, as they're thinking, what time I have to go to bed, what time I have to get up, what time I have to do this. They're thinking about, how am I going to schedule my exercise? So you want to make sure you've got programs starting then, but you don't want to leave yourself high and dry in July either. So you've got to be thinking about all of those things. But here's what you want to do. You don't just want to run the same programs because you've run them if they're not profitable. And unfortunately, I run into a lot of clients who are owners, personal training directors, who are still running programs that simply are not full. So we know what capacity is, and if you know how many people can fit in the room, how many people can the trainer eyeball and work with in a quality way according to the fee that's being charged, what's that number? That should be your goal, and you should be racing to fill it with early bird registrations that offer bonuses and extras. With those bonuses, that deadline is going to go away. That'll make people have an urgency in a sense of, okay, I've got to get started now. Then there's the deadline where maybe it's regular rate, and then they're going to lose their space. There's limited space. They're not going to get the chance to get in. So another reason that there's urgency and call to action. So you want to plan those things out. That's a part of a launch. But then even before that is content. It's what happens that draws people in. Here's the gap. So if you're finding that this might be your problem, and I hear this a lot, there is that, we've got this program, we built it, we know actually that this is what people need. It would really help them. But there may be a gap between what they need and what they're looking for right now, and you haven't made a good blend of content that converts. And by that, that's copy. That's the words you use. It's the images you use. It's the call to action. It's the order. It's the way you drip that content out that matters. And I'm seeing a lot of that missing anymore. There's a lot of let's create this program and then let's get a flyer up. Or let's get the new dates put online on the website and expect that people will come. And here's how you can solve that problem. If you've got great programs, you do, you've got great trainers, you can deliver the program if you have people in the seat that will make them happy with the results they have. You need to do an audit of the entire marketing piece. Now, if you're not sure about your program, you need to audit that too, and you should have either somebody go through that course every single session, get the exact same treatment from that trainer. If you're the trainer and you're wondering, do I need to audit myself? Ask somebody, give them a free registration and say, I really want you to come and I want you to be my guest. And what I want at the end is, what was your experience like? What would you like more of? What would you like less of? What didn't work for you? And you'll get some real honest answers if you do that, and you may need them. But let's come back out to the other side. And let's assume you have a great product. You have a great service. You have a great course. You have a great session, but it's just not filling. So do an audit. So here's the deal. That means you've got this thing, you've got it on the schedule, you've got flyers up, you've maybe got it on your website, and it's just not converting. It's not filling. Well, it's not profitable. It's probably something you're losing money on because your time is worth something. So what you've got to find is somebody who knows copy that converts. And maybe if you're designing the flyers yourself and you're creating the copy and it's not converting, it's not you. It may be that you need to find someone who does this regularly, who knows copy and knows your program and your service well enough to understand, here's what you're trying to say, we're not going to get too far off the beaten path, but we want to rephrase this in a better marketing way to attract and appeal. So you have them do this. Go through your entire funnel. Now, here's where right away, some of you might be listening and dropping off because you don't have a funnel. And now you know your gap. That may be it. But the funnel starts at the entry point. If they see your flyer, what's the call to action? Are they simply supposed to call you and pay you money because they've seen your flyer? Or, what is the first time they see you? Is it an ad on Facebook or an ad in the newspaper, or maybe in direct mail, so it lands in their literal post office box? What's the next step in the call to action that you make? And the question here is, does it make sense? So reading your emails, let's say this, are you nurturing them? Are you actually, they asked for more information, they wanted it, they came to you with this problem, and every time you send them an email, it's relative to what they wanted. There's some of that missing. And if you right now are sitting with this email list of 5,000 customers, the challenge for you is, if you're putting every one of them on the same list, and you have men and you have women and you have teenagers and you have 75-year-olds, you have people who are pregnant and you have people whose grandchildren are pregnant. I mean, you have a real diverse group that really all they have in common is you telling them that you're going to be closed on a holiday, or that your pool is broken and the water temperature is 50. So they might not want to swim. You've got to figure out how to separate those people out so that the people who are interested in performance, golf conditioning, core conditioning, running faster, doing races, bicycling, getting outside, all those might be in one group. It's not hard to do to create those kinds of groups once you have a single big list. You simply offer some juicy piece of information and have them put their hand up, and they opt in to a separate list so that you can send them the information. And then in the future, anytime something comes up for, say, older adults, you send that specifically to that list, not to your big list full of people with children who are having young families in elementary school. You're not sending them something about balance and incontinence or osteoporosis. You have to make it make sense. So here's what's happening. What typically does not work today, if you go from Facebook to a sales link, I mean, you just really kind of got strangers on that Facebook page. You don't know who is there. And it's taking them to a checkout on your website. Or from an email, just kind of spam to that entire list directly to a sales link. Again, there's a gap. So here's how it is. My analogy is this. It's like they're in the garage starting the car, and then the next place they are, or that you want them to be, is across the country on vacation. I mean, there was no road map, there was no GPS, there was no Siri guiding the way. How would they ever get there? Nothing made sense to them. So that's no different than cold calling. And you know how most of us feel about that. Think about picking up the telephone, calling somebody from a list you've never met, and you aren't even sure that they want what you have. You would never want to do that. And at least most of my clients or trainers don't like that at all, but neither do the customers. It's no good for anyone. But you're really repeating that blind selling, that cold calling to a stranger when you have not nurtured them with something more than flyer to buy sign, right? Or from Facebook to buy, or from your email to buy, right? Unless that email is specifically targeted at the group, the content is always targeted at the group you're trying to get into the class. You're missing that piece. And it's so easy to actually go back and put that in. Just to start sitting down to write an email to someone who is pregnant, who is going to have a baby, maybe for the first time. What it's like, what they're experiencing, the backache, the shoulders, the lack of sleep. You can talk to that and write good content to that all day. But if you're talking to somebody like that and to a high school senior who wants to play more basketball instead of sitting on the bench his senior year, and you're talking to a woman who just got diagnosed with osteoporosis and thought she was going to retire and ski and ride her bike, and now she's scared, there really can't be probably content that appeals to all of them unless you're going to make them hunt and peck and find it and sort through it. It should be right there. Material that means everything to them. So if you have a big umbrella over your business, you need separate email lists reaching the people in that business so that you can send out valuable content beyond, here are the open hours, here are the close hours, here's the holidays, we're closed. But you want to start doing that, start thinking about it now, because it can be in place in just a matter of weeks. And then you'll be really making sure that your programs get full because you're talking to the right people. No one will pay attention to those spammy flyers, those kind of targeting everybody Facebook ads, and those emails directed at everybody because there's just too much noise in the world and they don't know you. You haven't gotten their attention. Maybe they didn't put their hand up for the information you happen to be sharing. And if it's not coming to us in a way that feels like someone's talking to us directly, whether it's based on a prior email or hints that there's a next email coming, watch for that one, or it links information together from one email to the next, or maybe it's a video, one video to the next, then you don't have a relationship with them and they aren't very likely to spend several days a week with you in a training session where they may already feel intimidated or just really guarded with their time. I would never sign up for a program with someone I didn't know just because I belonged to, say, that fitness center, simply because it was offered. If I didn't know the trainer, didn't have a relationship with him, and I don't mean I have to know you and have lunch with you, but you have to have talked to me. I have to hear your voice, so to speak, in the words you write in a blog or an email letter, or better yet, hear your voice and see you on a video. If I don't have a relationship with you, I'm going to probably go with what a good friend might be doing. And maybe that's somewhere else. So here is a plea for every time you do have attendees in your classes, be sure you're asking for referrals every single time. When they first sign up and register, it's the best time to do it. But also at the end, ask for referrals, do a bring a guest day, because word of mouth is one of the best ways to build a relationship if you're still having that gap between flyer, sale, Facebook ad, sale, and maybe it's not even ad. You're not even retargeting people who are on your own page with advertisements. That's something you want to be sure to look at. But those are ways that you could close that gap between having those great trainers doing great programs that just aren't full, is create that nurturing sequence. And maybe it starts with a live presentation that you bring people in and educate them, develop rapport. And from there, maybe you do go for a sale if you get started with us today. If you found this helpful, you're going to really love this. That kind of verbiage or talk, if that feels good to you, then you've got the content that's relative in that first hello. So think about ways that you can add more of those steps along the way, and people will be much more likely to jump into your programs. And this next 6 months, the end of 2017, could be on fire for you. If you have a question, leave it below the show, this podcast, at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/podcast. And until the next one, make a difference.